Well, this certainly was an expected result in terms of a majority win. The question, of course, will be how big that majority will grow to. I spoke earlier with the campaign manager who said this was an unusual campaign, one that focused more on international affairs than provincial ones, something that we just don't see very often in Ontario. We saw political analyst Scott Reid talk about the likelihood of a monster majority here. We've seen seat projections close to 100. That would be unheard of in Ontario. Also very unusual to see a party in power this long and continue to, over a cycle of elections, grow their seat count. We are seeing just Doug Ford not be slowed down by any criticism, files that his critics think that he has mismanaged. So again, it looks like a third majority for Doug Ford.
All right, Siobhan Morris live at PC Party headquarters, where there's going to be a very big celebration there again. Following breaking news, CTV News is declaring a PC victory, and we're now looking at live images coming to us from Etobicoke. The Ford family watching these results very closely tonight.
Doug Ford keeping the keys to Queen's Park. He said he wanted another mandate. The question now is, will he get an even stronger mandate than the one he had in 2022?
Yeah, let's turn to our panel for reaction to this. Vashi, this is not a total surprise. And now we wait, as Michelle said, for the big declaration. Is it a majority or a minority for Doug Ford?
Yeah, I mean, take a moment, all of us, I think, to give Doug Ford his due, right? This is a huge historic moment, a third mandate for the Progressive Conservatives. And though, you know, it's being called very early.
Vashi, stand by.
You keep going, yeah.
Because guess what? Our CTV decision desk is about to make yet another call. Let's find out what it is. Take a look.
And we have breaking news. CTV News is declaring a PC majority. Doug Ford not only gets a third straight mandate, he gets another majority. We're going to take you back to PC Party headquarters. Siobhan Morris following the latest reactions. And there is Doug Ford and his family reacting to these results. Siobhan.
We just saw a round of applause, cheers go up here at PC Party headquarters, as you could hear it now too, again with those images of Doug Ford on the screen here at the PC Party headquarters. This is what the PCs had been hoping for in calling this election early, that they could strengthen their majority and return themselves to Queen's Park for a third majority, extending their ability to hold power in the province of Ontario. You heard Doug Ford talk about wanting to have a mandate to outlive and outlast Donald Trump in his presidency. He will get that tonight with a mandate from the people of Ontario, something that he says he needed to unleash tens of billions of dollars in stimulus, all kinds of economic help, should tariffs hit, as we are expecting them to, whether it be next week, next month, who knows when, the way Donald Trump talks sometimes. But Doug Ford says that's part of why he thought this election was necessary, to really give stability to the people of Ontario so they know what to expect here at home.
Siobhan Morris in Ford Nation tonight. And wow, was that a record? Let's go over to the panel, because what was that? 908.
Yeah, 908, 906, you made the first call.
Yeah.
I think we had some people on the panel winning some bets over that one. Yeah, it was early, but like I was saying, you know, give Doug Ford his due. I'm with Sabrina Nanji, Bill Carroll, and John Moore. A third majority. We're just waiting to see how big of one, Bill. This was a gamble Doug Ford took, a big one, and it paid off.
Yeah, well, we'd heard for months that he was thinking about it. At least he was getting a lot of pressure from the political people, excuse me, to call an early election. And my understanding was that it was the Premier himself who was saying, I'm not sure I want to do that. But this idea that you're going to be punished for calling it early is actually pretty overrated. And his timing was perfect. This story out of the United States and tariffs started to break. He'd already positioned himself as Captain Canada. Incumbency is always powerful, but this is unprecedented. To have been the de facto prime minister in the middle of this election, I feel actually bad for anyone who had to go up against him, because they never had a chance. It was always all about him.
John, how significant a moment is this for Doug Ford?
Oh, very significant. I mean, first of all, Sabrina's been observing tonight, we have the whole business of 3 back-to-back majorities and growing his caucus size in all likelihood today. But I was found one of the compelling things he said on the campaign trail was that he will, as a result of being elected today, still be the premier when Donald Trump leaves office. And I think a lot of people sort of, you know, that's a very comforting thought, that Donald Trump, hopefully he leaves office.
If in fact that does happen.
Yeah, but Donald Trump Trump's out of office and we survived the maelstrom.
Yeah, Sabrina, like you had said at the outset of this program tonight, and of course our colleagues, it does appear to be a race for second place right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Elections Ontario live results coming in, and it seems like the NDP and the Liberals might be able to pull off, recognized status, which is going to be a huge deal for the Liberals in particular. Obviously, they've been sidelined since 2018, but I think the real question is Bonnie Crombie going to be able to pull off the win in Mississauga East Cooksville?
Yeah, that might take Lena and Michelle a little bit of a longer amount of time to figure out, maybe, than the clear mandate that Doug Ford's already received.
Okay, fascinating panel. Thanks so much for this. And it's not looking good for Bonnie Crombie. She's struggling a little bit. Let's pick up on that. Let's go to Nathan Downer, who is at Liberal Party headquarters with the latest reaction there. How are they feeling over there about this, Nathan?
I think overall feeling pretty positive. I've got Tyler Meredith joining me. He's a consultant, worked with Bonnie Crombie's campaign. Last election, you finished with 8 seats. You had 9 at dissolution. We're already seeing 16. You've made some progress.
Absolutely, and we may still make more progress over the evening. Bonnie's worked extremely hard over this campaign. It's a campaign that we were not expecting to have to run right now. Doug Ford obviously has a majority, but it's given the circumstances put in front of us, so I think we've done very well so far.
Do you think you can catch the NDP?
We will see. There's still a lot of seats to report. There's going to be some important vote splits in Toronto. But look, I will tell you, I've worked in many campaigns fighting the NDP. They're down 9 seats, and they're certainly struggling. They've been trailing in this campaign. Bonnie Crombie is the only leader in the course of this campaign that has increased her support in audiences and on issues all across the board. She's done very well over the course of this campaign.
Of course, Ford wins another majority. Are you surprised? Were you expecting this?
Well, he held a majority going into this election. And remember, we're spending $190 million for this race in order so that he can go back with a majority, right? I'm not sure why we're having this election. It's an election that we're having effectively 2 years early. But look, I think given a very difficult circumstances for this race, just because obviously with tariffs and with everything else going on in the rest of the world, I think we are very proud of our results so far tonight.
And as far as number of seats you're hoping to win, what number are you guys trying to hit?
Well, look, we're happy right now with the fact that we're official party status, and we could be knocking on over 20 seats. We'll see at the end of the night. But look, we've picked up official party status. We've at least gained potentially 7 or 8 seats, maybe more, and I think the night is still young.
All right, thanks, Tyler. Yeah, you can't argue progress has been made tonight, and they're hoping more progress will be made. Back to you.
Thank you, Nathan. We're watching the results as they roll in that pivotal riding of Mississauga East Cooksville. At this stage, Bonnie Crombie is trailing Sylvia Galtieri with a lead of 1,100 votes, but 20 of the 64 polls reporting. We'll keep an eye on this. Right now, we want to go back to Ford Nation and Siobhan Morris. Party there tonight?
There is, and I will say there was a big cheer when that board went up showing Bonnie Crombie trailing in her riding here at PC headquarters. Scott Reid, tell me what you're seeing in the numbers as they're rolling in right now.
It's pretty much on track for what the Conservatives thought. You can see that they're picking up some steals from the NDP, particularly outside of Toronto. That's what they imagined. That's what they hoped for. The tail of the tape is going to be between the NDP and the Liberals. That's where it's going to get interesting. A bunch of downtown ridings that are still close. Not a ton of polls in yet. So we'll have to wait and see. The Liberals are thrilled that they've got official party status, but they really want official opposition. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe a little bit more of an outperformance here tonight based on what we thought for the NDP, given these numbers.
Is it just a matter of having a better ground game, being better at getting people to the polls, or what happened there, you think?
Almost certainly. It'll be interesting to see where the popular vote lines up, but if it's low and if those close seats break to the NDP in Toronto, it will be almost certainly a function of their infrastructure, their ground game, their get out the vote effort. That's what the NDP were telling us would be their election day advantage. We'll have to wait and see. There's still a lot of night to come.
We still have quite a few polls to come in Bonnie Crombie's riding in Mississauga. What happens for her if she doesn't win that riding?
Well, it's a giant question mark. I mean, listen, if she returns the party to official party status, much less if she were to put them in official opposition, I don't know that there's going to be a giant run at Bonnie for leader. I mean, she will have brought the party literally back out of the graveyard, but it's going to be a disappointing result. I mean, the campaign genuinely believes she would win a riding on the basis of her personal poll, her past as mayor and as a member of parliament federally. So they'll be watching it closely. Their fingers are crossed. They want her in the legislature.
So that's definitely one to watch as the night continues to unfold. Michelle and Lena, we'll send it back to you.
Siobhan, thanks so much. And again, we're following breaking news here. CTV News declaring a PC majority. We're going to take you to Nick Dixon now, who's standing by with some House projections for us. Nick.
Yep, so we know, of course, PC majority, Doug Ford, 4 more years. He got what he was looking for here. Let's take a look, though, at potentially what the House could look like when Queen's Park does resume here. So at this point, according to the CTV decision desk and the polling data and voting numbers that are coming in, we're looking at a minimum number of seats of 74 for Doug Ford and the PCs. That would be shy of where they were at dissolution of 79. Maximum at this point, 83. Remember how we talked about how the numbers are going to tighten? You can see how they're tightening already. Interesting, though, in this race for second place, currently the New Democrats on top at this point, maybe retaining official opposition status. We'll have to wait and see to find out that. But this is a very close race. Liberals, as Scott Reed was alluding to, looks like they're going to get official party status with a minimum of 14 seats, max 21, max 27. This is going to be the big race to watch in these races, where the Liberals and New Democrats find their votes and see who does end in second. Green Party, interestingly, Mike Schreiner, we know, already declared his seat. They're looking like they're on track for 2, maybe 3, an independent 1. That could be the Haldeman-Norfolk seat as well. But again, these are the projections. We know it's going to be 63 plus for Doug Ford. Plus what? We're going to find out as these votes keep getting counted.
This is a big night for Mr. Ford. Now we're going to head over to Patricia Bowl, who is in the NDP riding, where Mart Stiles is going to be tonight. We know that Mart has won her seat in Davenport as expected. Who do you have there?
So joined here by Jared Walker of Broadbent, and certainly it's been interesting in this room. We heard that loud cheer when Marit Stiles was declared re-elected, followed by some loud boos as the signs went up for the PC majority. Looking at these numbers here, 24-14 leading and elected for the NDP in this race for second place, as people have dubbed it. Would you label this right now a successful evening, or too soon to tell?
I mean, I don't, obviously this isn't the result that we were hoping for. What we've been trying to do since day one, split blue seats to orange and take the fight to Doug Ford. That's what we've been doing since 2018 when we became the official opposition, and that's the yardstick.
What do you think was the struggle in this campaign? Was it as simple as everyone says that? The room reacting a little bit right now. Was it as simple as everyone says, that it was so tough to get messages through about healthcare, about education, about affordability, when you have a Doug Ford in a Canada shirt and hat, and people were so focused on the threat coming from south of the border?
I mean, I think Doug Ford called this election at the time he did, with the premise that he did, to distract from his record, which is that for the past 7 years, everything's gotten more expensive. No one can afford rent. No one can afford groceries. The healthcare system is in shambles, and our schools are crumbling. And that's why he called the election, and he knew what he was doing.
But a huge majority, what do you attribute that to?
I mean, a lot of folks staying home. Like, quite frankly, call an election during a winter, the first winter election, and gosh, like, Lord knows how long,
All right, Jared Walker, thank you very much. We do hope to hear from Marit Stiles probably sometime after 10:30 will join us, and we'll hear from the leader of the NDP, re-elected in her riding, and the celebration happening around that here at the Great Hall.
Okay, we can hear the cheering. And Patricia Bowl, thanks so much, live at NDP headquarters tonight. We're going to go over to PC Party headquarters now. CP24's Beatrice Faisman is on the floor speaking with people there. Beatrice, what are you hearing about this big PC majority?
Lena, we're actually in the hotel where PC leader Doug Ford, who I guess is now getting a third term as the leader of this province with a strong majority, according to what CTV News has declared so far. I was in the room when the declaration was made. There was cheering from Doug Ford, from his wife Carla, who was sitting directly beside him. 3 of his 4 daughters on the couch with him as well, along with Michael Ford, his nephew, who did not seek re-election in York Southwestern this time around. Also in the room, his late brother, Rob Ford's 2 children, Stephanie sitting right next to Doug Ford on the couch, and Dougie Jr. standing directly behind as well. Obviously, just a sense of joy in this room, a sense of victory in this room, because it's very rare when a politician gets 3 consecutive majorities. That's not something that happens all the time here in this province. It's not something that happens all the time in this country. And so sitting here just, just a couple of kilometers from the Toronto Congress Centre, where Ford HQ is, where Doug Ford will be making his way to celebrate along with his supporters. Certainly a sense of accomplishment, a sense of feeling as though the voters have given Doug Ford the mandate that he asked them for just 28 days ago when he said, I need your support, I need your vote, and I'm doing this to the slogan, protect Ontario jobs, help support people across this province in the face of 25% tariffs that are being threatened by U.S. President Donald Trump. So here at the hotel where Doug Ford is watching along with his family members, a room full as well of supporters as well of Doug Ford, just a sense of jubilation. Now they're just waiting to see how strong that majority mandate is going to be.
Thank you, Beatrice. Wow, the Ford family has really become a political dynasty. This is quite something. 3 consecutive majority governments.
Yeah, I keep saying it, Michelle and Lena, but like, we've got to take a beat. Give the man his moment, right? Like this, we don't know the size of the majority, but right now in this political moment in this country, this is you know, a big achievement certainly, and sets up an interesting 4 years ahead. I'm here with John Moore from Moore in the Morning on News Talk 1010, Bill Carroll from the Morning Rush with Bill Carroll on CFRA, and Sabrina Nanji, who is the founder of the Queen's Park Observer. John, I'll start with you. What did Doug Ford do right in this campaign?
Doug Ford was Doug Ford. That's all he needs to do. I think you can come up with a shopping list of complaints about the first 7 years, in particular the first 2 years, which were really, really rocky. But Ontarians like Doug Ford, and I think they look at this as almost a stewardship. And do we need to change the horse that we're on? Ontarians have clearly said no. So, you know, Doug Ford has the personality, and even when he's doing things, when he's making a mistake or enunciating policy that turns out to be an error and then he pulls it back, Ontarians forgive him.
Even when, Bill, he's being investigated, you know, his government is being investigated by the RCMP. Like, there was no shortage in his time over the past few years of controversy, but like John says, he was able to, you know, slug it off.
Well, because he's authentic, right? The Ford family has always had that. People laugh at him in politics, or at least did in the early days, that my phone is available to anyone who wants to call, but it actually literally is. The guy does go to Walmart. You know, we just were at NDP party headquarters. This is supposed to be the party of the little guy. Could that guy have been more out of touch? He's talking about inflation and the price of groceries. Great story a month ago. I go to the grocery store and people, even if they don't have a lot of money, take this with them, and they're Googling the tomatoes, and they're willing to pay more for the tomato if it's Canadian, as long as it's not American. The world changed. Doug Ford got that. The NDP clearly didn't.
Let's talk a little bit about both the NDP, Sabrina, and the Liberals, and maybe even more so the Liberals, because a big storyline here was, would they get official party status? It looks like that will be cemented. The secondary story is about Bonnie Crombie's leadership, and whether or not she's actually going to be able to win her seats, and her seat, rather. We've been watching closely. Obviously not all the polls reporting, but she is trailing her competitor. Happens to be Patrick Brown's mother-in-law. Like, this is just a savage political drama going on here. What are you going to be watching for as far as how that goes? And does she, you know, can she stick around, let's be honest, if she loses her seat?
Yeah, I mean, I think there will be questions, but I do think that the Liberals will be happy at least getting recognized status. That's going to make their job a lot easier at Queen's Park. You know, you get more resources, more money, more speaking time and question period. But the big question for them is, you know, will their leader be in the House? And the Conservatives have not made this easy for Bonnie Crombie. You mentioned that Patrick Brown's mother-in-law is running there, Rudy Cazzetto's sister, and they, you know, the Conservatives sent like their heavyweight ministers, or, you know, ministers at dissolution there to the riding, like there to fundraise, to canvass, and so they really were going full tilt to make this difficult for Bonnie Crombie. But again, you know, she was a popular Mississauga mayor there. It's not over yet, but it looks like this is really going to be a tough one for her.
She can get busy shopping for a bigger van.
It'll be like a bus now.
There'll be a tariff on it, probably.
They've got enough MPPs. Yeah. All right, we're going to throw it back to the desk, guys.
Okay, Vashi and panel, thanks so much for this. Look at this. We're looking at results from Mississauga East Cooksville, where Bonnie Crombie is currently trailing, currently in second place. Lindsay Biscaya is in that riding of Mississauga East Cooksville tonight, where Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is hoping to win a seat in the legislature. Vashi was just talking about whether or not she'll survive this if she doesn't win tonight, Lindsay. Where Bonnie Crombie is.
Yeah, I mean, this is really turning into possibly the story of the night, Lena. And I keep looking up because we are all watching our special, eyes glued to the screens up here as these results are coming in. Every time it shows that Sylvia Gualtieri has more votes, people are cheering. It gets so loud in here. I think it's really interesting because when we first got here, the mood was more kind of like, yeah, you know, we'll see what happens tonight. Now it seems to be shifting. Of course, it's showing 30 out of 64 polls counted. But many people here are saying, you know, it's early, everyone recognizing that, but very, very much excited that Gualtieri is pulling ahead in this race. She, of course, was a bit of an underdog, but the PC party put her in this riding. It was no accident. They obviously felt that she was going to be a strong contender to try to keep the Liberal leader, Bonnie Crombie, from getting a seat and getting into the legislature. So it's still early, but again, we're going to have to wait and see what happens here because this could change a lot of things for the Liberal Party moving forward. We know even PC leader Doug Ford was here in this riding campaigning yesterday. So obviously the PC party putting a lot of resources into this riding to try and ensure that Sylvia Gualtieri comes out on top. I've been told that Sylvia will be arriving soon. Her campaign manager also expected to arrive soon. So we'll try to grab them and speak with them and bring that to you live. But for now, back to you.
All right, thank you so much. And it is worth noting the Liberals tonight are making gains in Nepean. That riding has gone from blue now to red. And I understand we have a new result.
Oh, look at this. Stephanie Smythe elected in Toronto St. Paul's for the Liberals. She has now defeated the NDP incumbent Jill Andrews. Stephanie Smythe, of course, former broadcaster, former CB24 anchor. This is a big victory for the Liberals. They've defeated the NDP there. Toronto St. Paul's, really a Liberal stronghold. They were looking for this one. Bonnie Crombie certainly spent a lot of time in this riding, and it paid off. Stephanie Smythe elected in Toronto St. Paul's. Let's go live to Bakari Savage now at NDP headquarters with the latest reaction, Bakari.
Okay, so we're at the Grey Hall. This is on Green Street West. I'm standing here with Darlene and her son, Tim. Let's talk about this. So we just heard the news. Marit Stiles re-elected the riding of Davenport. Your response?
That's wonderful news. I'm so proud of her, and I'm really happy that she did. I think she's going to do a lot.
And Darlene, you're here with your son. Let's talk about, you know, getting him involved in you know, the NDP process as well. What does that mean?
Actually, he got me into it. Believe it or not, he's always been into politics, and he started showing me all about Marit and what she stood for. And I caught right on, and I believe everything that she stands for, and she's wonderful. She's wonderful.
And let's talk about, you know, looking around this room, there are a lot of young people in this room. What does that show to you about the future of politics?
I think it's great because you need those young voters to come out in numbers, because a lot of times they don't. It's usually the older folks. So it's great that the younger ones are stepping up and starting to vote now.
And, you know, when it comes to the numbers, we see, you know, Doug Ford, the PCs, so have that majority. What does that mean to you?
It's not good, but I'm hoping it was just that because a lot of people didn't get out and vote, which they should have. But it's not good, but I think, you know, he's going to have a battle with Marit beside him there. I think she's going to still push for a lot of things.
What were some of the big issues throughout this election cycle campaign for you and your family?
Well, actually, the fact that she wanted to double the OW and ODSP, and she also is really big for affordable housing, because sadly I'm on Ontario Works myself at the moment because I was being a caregiver for 20 years, and trying to find a place within my budget was a nightmare. So her being able to, you know, to come up with some kind of affordable housing. There's so many people homeless out there. It's scary.
And what does your future look like now?
Well, we still have it. Hopefully he'll call another election and decide that we can get him out again. Yeah, I really don't. I can't believe he's actually got a majority government, really.
Darlene, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And with that, back to the studio.
Thank you, Bakari. Some disappointment there. There are about 24 ridings up for grabs in voter-rich Toronto with party leaders. They spent lots of time over the course of the campaign Let's go right now. We're just being told we're going to go to Nick Dixon at our power board. He's been watching basically this province. The colors change and take shape, although, yes, Nick, there's a lot of blue tonight.
There is a whole lot of blue out on the map right.
Let's go to Natalie Johnson, who is there. You're in Toronto. Tell us exactly where you are.
Oh, she's in Toronto, St. Paul's, where Stephanie Smythe was declared the winner. Natalie.
Yeah, that's right. A big cheer right here, as you can see behind me. Stephanie Smythe, the former CP24 anchor, declared the victor here in Toronto, St. Paul's. This was a very contentious riding. We knew it was going to be close between Stephanie Smythe and Jill Andrew, the NDP candidate. Andrew won this seat in 2018 after it was a Liberal stronghold for years. She won it again in 2022. We knew that the red team was vying for the seat here in Toronto, St. Paul's. We are expecting Stephanie Smythe to speak here at about 10:15. I'll let you take a look at the room right here as they begin to cheer. Very exciting for Stephanie Smythe and the Liberals as they reclaim this seat that was a stronghold for many years. It was, of course, also a federal Liberal seat for many years. They lost it last year in the by-election, so a turning point for the Liberals here in Toronto, St. Paul's. Back to you.
All right, Natalie, thanks so much. Let's set the stage now for what is to come. Nick Dixon is back at our power board now, helping us understand these results as they come in. They've been fascinating so far, Nick. What do you have for us?
They certainly have. And yes, again, so we have to mention PC majority for Doug Ford, so 4 more years of the Ford Conservatives in charge at Queen's Park and in Ontario. But we want to take you to some of the nail-biting ridings right now, some of the closest ridings in this province where there are really, in some cases, just a few votes between some of the candidates here. So we're going to start to drill into this right now. So here's what we're showing you. Leading and elected, in fact, at this point, you can see 79. That is exactly where the PCs left off at dissolution. 75. New Democrats down at 24. That would be a drop for them. And as you just saw there as well, the Liberals are up 5 right now to 13. 12 is what you need for minimum party to maintain a party status here. Independents down, and the Greens right on 2 right now. Now let's talk about the closest races at this point, because this is where things could get interesting. You've got people on the edge of your seat. Sault Ste. Marie up to the north here. Chris Scott and Lisa Van Allen. The lead is only 67 votes with 54 of 60 polls in. This one is going to go down to the 60th poll. Just take a look at those numbers. Let's move into the GTA right now. Greater Toronto area. Show you another really close riding in the 905 belt. That being Ajax, a little east of where we are tonight. Rob Cernajek from the Liberals only has a 70-vote lead over Patrice Barnes. She's the PC incumbent, hoping to bring out Team Blue in the final 11 ridings or so, 9, pardon me. Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas, a little west of Toronto tonight. John Demick for the PCs, trying for an upset here. He's got just over a 100-vote lead over the incumbent Sandy Shaw for the New Democrats here. So giving you a sense of just some of the close ridings. And in Mississauga, Aaron Mills, we've been watching Bonnie Crombie's riding closely, yes, as well. But the PC incumbent here, Sheriff Subaway, has an 83-vote lead over Kassir Dar of the Liberals. Again, this is a close one, about half the vote in there as well. So these ones are going to be an example of some of the ridings that are going to come down to really, it looks like the last several votes counted. Again, it's a PC majority. Is Doug Ford Doug Ford and the Conservatives on their way to 79 or more? We're going to find out, but there are, Lena, Michelle, some extremely close races out there.
You know what? There always are. Every election night, without fail. Let's go over to CTV's chief political correspondent, Vashi Capello, is over with our panel. Anything surprising you so far tonight?
Well, I think one thing that, listening to Nick, that might be interesting to get into a little bit is the fact that they have not yet been able to increase the size, Sabrina, of the majority. Like, clearly a win, clearly a majority win, a third straight one, you know, a big and successful mandate. But they left things at 79 seats. If they end up with another 79, that's an interesting story.
Yeah, and I guess you could say it's technically even like a smaller mandate, because in 2022 they had won 83 seats, right? And so now we're at less than that. But, you know, the night is not over yet. No. And I think the big question for Ford, who has been saying this entire campaign, he wants a bigger mandate. He needs a stronger mandate to deal with Trump. You know, what is that going to mean for him if he ends up with, you know, a less strong mandate from tonight?
My guess is, Bill, they're going to say, well, it's a majority government, it's a mandate. Your thoughts on what's happening below the graph a little bit, below the big number, meaning you see the NDP losing a few seats, the Liberals picking up a few, but still a lot of things in flux there.
Yeah, and if the Liberals don't have a leader in the House, the size of the mandate is going to matter. matter even less, right? Because, you know, if Bonnie Crombie gets elected, she's in the House, she's increased the size of her party, there's a little more powerful opposition. But still, a majority is ultimately a majority, and Doug Ford can pretty much do what he wants to do, and I think he will. The popular vote will be interesting, too, though, to see what the mandate looks like when you look at it that way.
Well, and even with the popular vote, I mean, you could see, for example, the entire election campaign, John, the Liberals were outpacing the NDP, and the vote efficiency, just as the NDP had signaled, certainly did. It looks at this juncture turn out in its favor.
Nick Nanos was showing us that poll, and the lines were virtually flat, and then the Liberals started to go up, the NDP going down. But clearly the NDP has always been said to have a really solid ground game, so they got out the vote. I think this has to be a bit of a bitter pill for Bonnie Crombie, because they can crow about lifting the seat count to enough for party status in the House, but this is not what she wanted. It's not what the party asked her to do.
No, I think, Sabrina, you know, talking to people on the campaign, as I'm sure you were, their idea of a win was official party status and official opposition.
Yeah, they were gunning for, 20 seats at least, and they had been, feeling confident. I mean, we saw in the last days of the campaign, Bonnie Crombie appealing to NDP voters, saying that you got to pick Liberals if you want the anti-Ford vote. So I think it might have paid off for her in a couple of ridings, especially Toronto. I mean, we saw St. Paul's flip. I'm looking now at Etobicoke Lakeshore. It looks like Lee Fairclough, the Liberals, have taken that over the PCs, and so yeah, I think they've got some things to be proud of, and obviously getting recognized status is a huge deal, but there are going to be questions about how do you navigate running the party when you don't have a seat in the House, and what does this mean for your leadership, right? Will there be a review? Will the knives be out?
Look, I could be even more blunt, Bill. I think tonight, if Bonnie Crombie loses her seat, we're going to be watching to see if she announces she's not going to be the leader anymore.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be an uphill battle. You look at what's happening federally and the increases that the federal Liberals have seen. Why is she not benefiting from that a lot more? You would have expected that to happen, and it didn't. You also would have expected the Conservatives to maybe see a bit of the hit that the federal Conservatives are taking. That didn't happen. So, obviously the people in Ontario, their mindset is a very different place right now. And Bonnie Crombie's going to have to explain that. And that's a tough one. I thought she looked shaky and amateurish at times. Even on the last day when the Premier was in her riding, she was trying to change the channel to some scandal with a local candidate, and it just wasn't working. She kept avoiding the questions about her own leadership, and that's not authentic. Remember, we had the guy earlier on tonight who said, I have my own YouTube channel.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the world we live in today.
Yeah.
And Doug Ford is the guy who swallows the bumblebee. And Bonnie Crombie seemed like she wanted to be a politician.
10 seconds left. John, last word to you.
I don't see her resigning tonight, and judging by her character, and also the fact that, who else is going to take over? Who else is going to rebuild this party? So I don't think she's going to resign in the next few days either.
Okay, I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Bastien panel, thanks so much. The PCs and Doug Ford take another majority, but can they expand that majority? It's such a big question. We're back right after this with more live results and analysis. Stay with us. We'll be right back. News Decision Desk is declaring Marit Stiles and the NDP the official opposition in Ontario. The NDP gets another 4 years of holding Doug Ford and the PCs to account. This is a fascinating storyline. All the polls had Bonnie Crombie and the Liberals in second place, but we're now learning the NDP will be the official opposition once again. Let's go live to Patricia Bull at NDP headquarters for the latest reaction. Patricia.
Well, an election night in Ontario where it appears not a whole lot has changed. Certainly official opposition status for the NDP, despite the fact that they are currently down a few seats. I think a lot of people here would take as very good news, given there was the expectation there would be a huge bounce back for a Liberal Party that has traditionally had so much more support than it has in recent years. And while they did appear to steal a few seats, or have here, it is certainly not the night the Liberals had hoped for, and closer to what the NDP had, with Marit Stiles re-elected and remaining the official opposition. Now, they were saying here earlier that they do a wonderful job on a bad weather day and a bad weather month at getting the vote out, so they must have had some success in doing that. Obviously, they also had hoped to grow some support, maybe steal some blue seats, take down some of those numbers that you're seeing on the screen that Doug Ford has once again put up. But given what the pundits were saying, given the expectation, you heard it from former Liberal Premier David Peterson, that the Liberals, it appeared, were going to steal some seats at the expense of the NDP. I think for the most part, people here would call this a success, and there was a huge cheer in this room as that official opposition status was declared.
Well, thank you, Patricia. Yeah, let's get some more of that reaction. Bakari Savage is on the floor. Tonight he's been talking with supporters. Bakari, obviously Mari wanted to be the next premier, but she gets the next best thing, the official opposition.
Yep. Okay, so good evening. You just heard from Patricia. She's upstairs. We're down on the floor. We've been down here speaking to NDP supporters as they await the arrival of Marit Stiles. Right now, I have Olivia and Sam. First off, you know, the announcement, you just heard it, NDP, the official opposition. Your reaction?
Oh, I mean, obviously I'm happy, but it was to be expected. I knew Mara was able to do it from the get-go. She's absolutely fantastic, so I was excited, but I knew it was coming.
Yeah, no, it's great to have Mara, you know, leading the party into another official opposition. I think we can, you know, hopefully use this to springboard the NDP as the, you know, voice for the progressives in Ontario.
Okay, so Olivia, there's something that we were chatting about. In 2022, I was covering this watch party, right? You were here as well. That was the same night. Andrea Horvath, you know, she resigned. Now she's the mayor of Hamilton. Marit Stiles took over as the new face, the new leader of the Ontario NDP. What are your thoughts so far from then to now?
Right. So I've got to give a lot of credit to Andrea, right? She was essentially the one that kind of revolutionized the NDP. She brought us from third-party status to official opposition, and she was fantastic in that. And I couldn't be more happy that Marit's the one who's running essentially down that path that Andrea was able to pave. Is that the word? Yeah. But no, I think that this is absolutely fantastic, and Marit has such a sensational kind of approach to the party, and she is so well spoken, and I think she performs incredibly well in all of the interviews and all of the debates, and I think that she's really able to carry us to the end here.
And speaking of carrying you to the end, let's talk about the connection. Are you able to have that personal connection with Marit and have her capitulate what's important to you at Queen's Park?
Absolutely. I think she has a stellar track record, and her record speaks for herself. She cares about the issues. She cares about Ontarians, and, you know, I'm happy to support her and the party as a result.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I met Marit at Queen's Park last year, and I met her again just a few days ago, and she remembered me, and that's something incredibly important for politicians, to be able to remember who they speak to, and that just speaks to how personable she is with everyone that she meets.
What does it mean to be an NDP supporter today?
Listen, that is an incredible question. It means being able to stick by a party that actually wants to do better for the people. And obviously right now we're in the midst of dealing with vote splitting and a whole plethora of other issues. And it means being able to stand by your values. We're for the people. We're going to help Ontario out. We are there for every single one of the constituents in all of the ridings. And I just think that it essentially means yeah, you're for the people. We are here to make Ontario better.
Sam, do you feel that all of your concerns have been addressed in this election cycle and will be addressed through Marit?
You know, I care about the things that the provincial government can actually work to fix. I care about housing. I care about healthcare. I didn't hear those solutions necessarily coming from the right side of the aisle. So, yeah, I do think that Marit's got the message that we need to actually find the solutions that we can have in Ontario.
Okay, Sam. Olivia, hey, thank you very much for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Bakari, thanks so much. Marit Stiles and the NDP get to hold on to that official opposition party status despite trailing in the polls. So how did we get here? Well, let's find out. CTV's Nick Dixon is at the Power Board with more on that, Nick.
Yeah, it's a big storyline, of course, you know, Lena, because, again, Marit Stiles will remain the official opposition leader, even though support and numbers in terms of seats are dropping for her party. So, again, Marit Stiles, official opposition leader. But let's take a look at the seat range potentially. We already know Doug Ford's in Conservative territory, so let's take a look here. The minimum number of seats at this point, according to the CTV decision desk, 23 for the New Democrats. Again, that's down, but that's still more than the maximum that Bonnie Crombie, the Liberals, are at right now. That's 19. You can see how these numbers have tightened again. The maximum for the New Democrats is 27 here as well. So despite the fact that, yeah, Nick Nanos has come on and he's told us the NDP are polling in third place, and Liberals second place, but it's about where their votes are coming from, and the NDP just have a more efficient vote than Bonnie Crombie's Liberals. Nick will explain that in much more detail throughout the program this evening. But this is where we're looking at Queen's Park. There will be another NDP opposition. Looks like the Liberals, they're on the verge of official party status, at least under Bonnie Crombie. 13, 12 is the minimum. But again, Doug Ford has done it again. He's going to take a majority government back to Queen's Park with, again, Marit Stiles as his official opposition leader. Lena, Michelle.
Thank you, Nick. So Doug Ford has the keys to Queen's Park, but will the Liberal leader have access? She has yet to win her seat at this point, and definitely not getting official party status. Let's go to Nathan Downer, who is at the Liberal headquarters tonight. What's the reaction there?
Mixed reaction. I've got Taylor Deasley joining me, and you do want it, you know, official party status. You got that. You want to win this seat. That's a question. How are you feeling right now?
I think let's take a step back for a second and think about the fact that we haven't been an official party since 2018. So that's 7 years where we have not had official party status. So I think number one was getting official party status and getting back into things in the province. And I think that that's something that we're really proud of. It's hard work to rebuild a brand. We had a lot of work to do for the Ontario Liberals, and we've done that, and we're doing that. And it starts in the small building blocks and moving forward and gaining that momentum. And as we're seeing tonight, we flipped Conservative and NDP ridings. We're winning those votes. We're getting those people in. It just takes more time. And I think, Doug Ford knew that, and that's why the election was called now.
If Bonnie Crombie doesn't win her own riding, do you see that as being a bigger deal where she might consider stepping down?
I don't see that happening. I think what we're seeing right now is real momentum, and we're seeing that in the fact that we are an official party now, that we're flipping seats, that we're beating Conservative ridings, that we're winning in NDP ridings, and it shows us that she is the leader to help bring us through and gain that momentum, and she's the person to help bring us forward to the finish line. And so we have more years left to win the hearts of voters, and that's something that we're going to be focused on doing.
And what would the strategy be for the next 4 years?
I think a lot of it is name recognition. Like, Doug Ford has been in office for years. Everybody knows his name, whether you're engaged in politics or not. Marit Stiles has been the leader of opposition already, and so they have that name recognition. Bonnie's really well known in the GTA, but we have a lot of work to do in getting her more well known in the more northern ridings and different parts of the province, and that's something that we've really focused on doing. But we only had 28 days, and it was a snap election. There's only so much you can do, but it's really building that name recognition and traveling across the province and making sure that as many people know who Bonnie Crombie is and what she stands for. So that'll be our priority.
So if she doesn't get a seat in the in Parliament, but at the same time she has official party status, was this a scenario that you talked about and you were considering?
I mean, we always talk about every possible scenario in anything. That's just a part of the strategy, is being aware of every possible outcome. And we were determined to, build up that momentum and rebuild the Liberal brand, and that's exactly what we're doing. It takes work, it takes time, and this is something the Ford government knew was going to happen, and they called a snap election for that reason, because they knew that this is the highest they're going to be in the polls, and strategically for them, they had to call an election in the dead of winter. And so we're aware of that, and we're going to work hard to regain the trust and hearts of voters over the next few years.
All right, thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
And of course, the race not over for Bonnie Crombie in that riding, Mississauga East Cooksville. And of course, we're all watching that very closely. Back to you.
Oh, yeah, it's looking real tight over there. Nathan, thanks so much for this. Back in 2022, the PCs picked up 83 seats. Can they do that again this time? Can they pick up even more? Let's go live to PC Party headquarters. Beatrice Vaisman standing by with reaction. Beatrice.
Lena, we're just at the hotel where Doug Ford was watching with his family when CTV News and CP24 declared this third straight majority government for him. I've got former leader of the PC Party, Tim Hudak, joining me now live. Tim, what are you looking for now that we're seeing the results come in?
It's the number, right? This is historic. Not only has Doug Ford won 3 majority governments, but it looks like he's going to increase the seats every time. That's never happened in Ontario's history, and deservedly so. He ran a strong campaign, but a very effective premier. And when Ontarians are thinking about, okay, who is going to have the strong hand at the wheel, we got a really bumpy row ahead. Overwhelmingly, they said Doug Ford.
We're looking at Marit Stiles now. She's been officially declared the leader of the official opposition. You know how difficult that job is. It's a job that you did for 5 years. What happens for her now? What does she have to do so that going into the next election, potentially 4 years from now, she really is an even better communicator?
I think Marit's got a lot of talent. I think she's a very energetic, positive communicator, and you know, the second big winner tonight, right? People thought the NDP would be lower. They're coming in a solid second place, so they build for next time. In areas like my own in Niagara, they did very well. They won 3 of the 4 seats there. They went back in Northern Ontario and a bit in Toronto, so you build for the next election campaign. And secondly, you do an honest review. What went wrong? What could we have done better? What if our strategy didn't quite click? But I'll tell you what, though, for Bonnie Crombie or Marit Stiles, it was a pretty tough election environment. It was almost like, you know, taking on Wayne Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers in their heyday, if I can still talk about Wayne Gretzky. It was pretty inevitable Ford was going to win, but Marit Stiles, number 2 winner tonight. How
tough of a gig is it to be the leader of the official opposition, where you're essentially, your job is quite literally to oppose? Whatever the government's doing, you're supposed to say, no, actually, that's not right. We suggest looking at this a different way.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's an honor to have that pleasure to serve, and I wouldn't trade my days, even though I didn't win and become premier. I wouldn't trade my time in politics for anything. But it is demanding, because your duty is to oppose, to hold the government to account, to point out a different way. It can get you down being negative sometime, but the chance actually to be on the stage, to fight for what you believe in and your vision for the province of Ontario, lead a team, incredibly rewarding.
It looks like the voters bought into what Doug Ford was selling this election, the third election in a row. I mean, when you look at Doug Ford when he was elected leader in 2018, what does the evolution of Doug Ford look like to you, Tim, as the premier of this province?
Yeah, it's certainly different Doug Ford than when you saw elected in 2018 and each subsequent election. He's really risen the occasion. Like, these are times that we have not seen in our lifetime. We're under threat to our greatest trading partner, 500,000 manufacturing jobs that could be lost in our province. Every day you don't know what the president's going to put out on his phone. And we've had a leader here that stepped into a vacuum, not only for Ontario, but for Canada, who has a vision that I hope will catch on in making Canada stronger and the Americans stronger, creating jobs here and there, making life more affordable and stronger defense around our continent. I really hope now that he has an even stronger majority, that Doug Ford's voice will catch on across Canada and help bring us together with the Americans later on this year.
Certainly a unique campaign. Tim Hudak, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. So we're standing by, see if we can get a word in with Doug Ford as he leaves the hotel and heads over to the Toronto Congress Centre, where Siobhan Morris has been reporting all night long over at PC headquarters. And then we'll be heading that way, too, to continue the coverage live here on CP24 and CTV News. Back to you.
Thank you, Beatrice. And speaking of our Queen's Park Bureau Chief, Siobhan Morris, let's check in with her at PC Party headquarters. We are watching to see if the PCs grow their seat count. It's very possible at this stage in the game, Siobhan.
It is. I just saw the number slip below where we were at dissolution, so that would be a disappointment, I think, to the PCs who've been hoping to grow that number. I want to bring in Scott Reid, though. Scott, you had said that you've noticed something kind of funky about the proportion of the vote and how it's translating into seats, looking at the NDP and Liberals.
Well, the big battle that people were watching for tonight was that for official opposition. We know now the NDP have won, and here's the reason why. The NDP received 18% as of now, 18% of the popular vote across the province. Right? That's more or less in line with what a lot of the polls are saying. Liberals, almost 30, just a niche under 30%. and the Liberals are trailing by a dozen seats. So that tells you, we've heard this phrase, and people say, well, oh, the NDP have a more efficient vote. Well, you're sure shoot they do, because to pull out twice as many seats on 12% less in the popular vote, that tells you that the NDP machine in those critical ridings came through. Tough number for the Liberals. It's really tough to see 30% and not be able to cash those in terms of seats in the legislature.
How much of that is a result of what we've seen the Liberals really suffer through the last number of years, not having party status, being a party that's building back from the ground up?
It's 100% owing to that, because the party doesn't have any of those sinews. It doesn't have any of that muscle. So when you've got a close riding and you say, well, if we could just get 100 workers to pull people to the polls, we have our vote ID'd. We know we're going to get 30% provincially. We know we got 42% in this riding, and yet they can't actually get that job done. That's the challenge. In the places where they needed to pull that vote, they didn't have the machinery, and that's a legacy of 7 years of being out of government, or out of official party status. The good news for the Liberals, and there isn't an acre of it tonight, the good news is they're back in official party status. They'll have those resources to rebuild and to renew themselves.
If Bonnie Crombie doesn't win her seat, though, even if they do have status, is that something that she would be prepared to give up, do you think?
Her campaign, I was just in contact with them, are insistent. Bonnie has no intention of stepping down, even if she loses her seat in Mississauga. So we'll watch that unfold. I'm not certain that if she returns the party to official party status, there's going to be a lot of pressure for her to step down, but it makes life more complicated. It makes it harder for her to break through if she's not in the legislature. And there's no question, they're very disappointed. They wanted three things. They wanted a Bonnie seat, they wanted official party status, and they wanted official opposition. So far, they're 1 for 3.
So definitely some disappointment, as Scott said, for the Liberals and the NDP in some capacity. We are expecting a lot more excitement, of course, here at PC headquarters when a re-elected Premier Doug Ford emerges. We'll stand by for that.
Siobhan Morris, live at PC Party headquarters. Thanks, Siobhan. This is CTV Ontario Election 2025. More live coverage is coming up next. Stay with us.